This video is brought to you by Grand Gamers Guild. Bloody hell, people hate a preamble, don't they? You know, the bit where you add context to the argument you're about to deliver. People bloody hate that. So, if you want to avoid the preamble and get to the meat...
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Follow this timestamp. You're missing some bloody good writing though, and probably a liberal use of the word f***. There's been a shift in games over the last 15 years or so. It started slowly at first, but it has come to dominate hobby gaming, especially its predominant faction, the Eurogame. The shift is a retreat from interaction and confrontation. There are corners of the hobby where confrontation still predominates, of course. I mean, conflict simulation games would be pretty bloody awful without the conflict. Many of the big titles that are released every year, though, that create a buzz amongst the board game commentariat, and yes, there really is such a thing, avoid the fact that people who have left the house to sit around a table should probably have something to do with each other. Many of the games that shoot up the BGG Top 100 are games that seem pathologically afraid of interaction. It seems that players are content to create their own palatinates with nary a peep from those around them, eyes rooted to player boards, shifting bits of wood and plastic around. They only fight the one against their own ineptitude. Reiner, the man many call the greatest living game designer, has made an industry of hawking his old designs around of late. Conference rooms set up at hotels around the corner from major conventions where potential punters can squabble over the chance to publish Alice Tomata from 2007. This has resulted in a ton of Knizia reprints coming out every year. Some work and others don't, but it's always worth giving a Reiner Knizia design a go, because when he's good, he's bloody fantastic. His games have a wonderful economy of rules where he's able to squeeze every drop of play out of a couple of mechanisms. His designs are crystalline and simple, and yet yield incredible depth. Also, Knizia is the kind of designer that understands people should interact, and he encourages that interaction. No designer knows how to pull the levers in a player's brain better than Knizia. This is a man who understands human motivations. Zoo Vadis, a reprint of his rather obscure 90s title Quo Vadis, has been wonderfully tarted up by Bitewing Games. Not just visually, but Knizia has revised it and swabbed the mechanisms in isopropyl alcohol so they've emerged shiny and new. Zoo Vadis is a lot of fun and a game that reminds you how valuable it is to get around a table and then shout at the bastard across from you until you're hoarse. Zoo Vadis is a classic Knizia, a game with few rules that brilliantly promotes above-table interaction, that plays in half an hour but makes you feel like you've played something meaty and challenging. In Zoo Vadis, we take on the role of animal factions in the zoo vying for renown. We could be hyenas, tigers, marmosets, I'm not really sure what they are, crocodiles, ibises, and I assume that's the plural, armadillos or rhinos.
The rhinos. Do you know what a rhino is?
Each animal has a special ability that is unique, and Knizia does something brilliant with these special powers that I'll come to later. Players are trying to get their animals into the star exhibit at the top of the board. This allows players to be considered for victory. Points are acquired during the game, but in classic Knizia fashion, you could collect every single point available, but if you don't have an animal in the star exhibit, these points are completely useless because you don't even qualify to be considered for victory. To get into the star exhibit, you have to advance your animal up the board. The board is divided into enclosures of varying size. Leaving a single space enclosure is simple, just move up the path. In an enclosure with more spaces though, things become tricky. You need to vote. This is based on the number of spaces in the enclosure. If it's a 5-space exhibit, you'll need 3 votes. If those spaces are occupied by your own animals, well, of course they'll vote for you. Then you can simply move. But what if it's animals from another player? Well, you'll have to convince those inconsiderate tossers to vote for you. This is where the real magic of Zoo Vadis kicks in. You'll have to wheedle and plead with the venal pricks surrounding you. You can offer to give them points, which have to be handed over immediately. You can offer favours in the future, or, and this is brilliant, you can offer your special power to the other players, as you cannot use them yourself. Armadillos have special tunnels that other players can use. Rhinos can carry other players on their backs further up the zoo, and there are a host of others. Knizia really wants you to interact in this game, and he engineers it brilliantly. Crossing a token will bequeath it to you, giving you the points emblazoned on the front. This is what will win you the game. When the final space of the star exhibit is full, the game ends, and the player with the most points wins Zoo Vadis.
Alright, this is Bob, Ben's twin brother. You can tell I'm Bob because I wears the glasses. Anyway, Ben's asked me, and forced me nor nothing, asked me to talk about the sponsor of this video, Grand Gamers Guild. Well, they've got these little escape room games, Groundhog Gambit and Cupid Crisis. Well, usually on Valentine's Day, Ben's out with his missus having a meal, so I has to stay alone, and rather than drown in me own tears, I plays the Cupid Crisis, 'cause it's great. You can get them at grandgamersguild.com, and what was that? Oh yeah, thank you for sponsoring the video. Oh, and yes, I'll get back in the cellar now. This is Bob, signing out.
Thing that has to be said about Zoo Vadis is that it's short. Not, oh, this is rubbish short, but bloody hell, that was great, let's do it again short. You get a real experience at a full player count in 30 minutes. That's some achievement. There are no fiddly rules either. The teach is 10 minutes, then you're off. Great games can often lean heavily into natural societal heuristics to do a lot of the heavy lifting rules-wise, and Zoo Vadis does this brilliantly. We know how to negotiate, we do it every day. All of our interactions with each other are negotiations, and Knizia leverages this foreknowledge. Secondly, it's the way the game leverages incentives to create a brilliant experience. I often say that playing a game is like taking a stroll through the mind of the designer. This is not the case with the best Knizia games. He wants to get into your mind. He reaches into your cerebral cortex and pulls at stuff until you're playing his tune. And the tune of Zoo Vadis is negotiation. This game is a pure vehicle for negotiation. It forces you to ascertain the needs of your opponents and then encourages you to exploit them for your own benefit. Knizia is just so good at exploring ludological concepts, and Zoo Vadis is no exception. There is no intellectual wankery here, just a desire to have players wheedle and beg and use pure animal charisma to get what they want. Rules should never be an end in themselves. These are not beautiful abstract equations, but applied formulas that should yield fun, and there is so much fun in a game of Zoo Vadis. It also has that Moorish quality that makes you want to play more than one game of it so you can revenge yourself on that sociopath that won the last game. Also, Bitewing has done a wonderful job here with the production. It's whimsical but never trite and feels like a premium experience. This is not a game for the meek, though. If you can't fight your corner, you get wiped out here. There is a reason that there are so many multiplayer solitaire games, and that's because human beings are manipulative arseholes, and Zoo Vadis allows you to indulge that impulse without restraint. Fundamentally, if you want a riotous 30 minutes of contentious negotiation, then Zoo Vadis is for you. But if you're one of those people who really hates having to talk to those around you, then I would run a mile from Zoo Vadis. So, thanks for watching. You can like the video if you liked the video. You can sub to the channel. Down below you'll find a link to the best Discord in gaming and to my merch store where there's loads of cool stuff. You can even help make these videos get made by going to patreon.com/5G4D and backing the show like these lovely people. Right, I'm off to see if I can negotiate someone to buy me a pint.